following program is a Washington-based podcast. Gday Gridiron. Gday Gridiron.
Now you've heard the best and worst of them, but now you're about to hear the first of them. The first to ever do it down under. We're here to steal your thunder, like the world's end down in Thunderdome. Welcome to our second home. All you need to know is Gday. This is Gday Gridiron. 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 We're not gonna let
G'day Aussie Gridiron fans, and welcome to the G'day Gridiron podcast, brought to you by the Aussie Gridiron Network. In a world where Donald Trump just slapped a tariff on an island inhabited solely by penguins and seals, we are back for the craziness that is the NFL off-season and all the nonsense that goes along with an owners meeting in the middle of Miami, outside, no air conditioning, in some ridiculous heat and humidity, and all of the dumb shit that has come out of that this week. And I have a couple of very, very crazy-minded men to go through all of that with me. G'day this week to not only a championship-winning lineman, but he is now, or so far this season, I assume he was in other seasons, an SA Gridiron or SA American football all-star. Nick Cosmo, how you going?
Good. I didn't have money on us starting off with politics with this show, the US politics, but yeah, no, it's just enjoying the off season at the moment. Looking forward to getting that itch back with starting up again soon.
Well, Nick, with all the dumb shit in the world right now, how would I not want to start with one of the dumbest things that Brad's president has given to us in the past day, where he slapped tariffs on everybody, where one of them is an island inhabited purely by animals. Brad, your brethren, I don't know. Sometimes you just have to shake your head.
Make America great again. Please, somebody make America great again. Because it's not Donald Trump. Oh, goodness me. Yeah.
Certainly not, Brad.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to start with the politics thing. That was hilarious.
It's all right.
I've been bitching with people all day about tariffs and carrying on about Australians not even understanding why it's so stupid that it happened. Laughing about the fact that Donald Trump thinks that our 10% GST on all goods and services is solely a tariff on American goods. But anyway, we won't go into that. Boys, it has been, I did mention it, it's been a bit of a crazy week. Traditionally, NFL Owners Weekend, where they all go to some massive resort in Miami, and it's always Florida, and I understand why. It's probably one of the nicest places to go to at this time of year in the States. Or if you like sort of the sun and the outdoors and the sea and all that sort of stuff. Traditionally, it had been indoors. They'd have conferences in air conditioning. They'd have a coach's breakfast where they all get to talk to the media, in a big air-conditioned ballroom, and a conference room where they're having breakfast and all that sort of stuff. Not this year. Nope. NFL decided we're taking it all outdoors. And the hilarious media that you've been seeing, if you've been following on X or in some of the NFL, if you watch some of the NFL stuff on DAZN or NFL Network at all, you've got interviews with owners, actual owners, GMs, coaches, and they're all sitting outside being interviewed, sweating. Like, when you see billionaires sitting in their suits just sweating, you're like, what is the NFL thinking? Like, it's got to be crazy hot in Florida right now.
I guarantee it's the last time that they'll do that as well. And then somebody's probably going to, if they're not going to lose their job, there's some people that are going to get seriously reprimanded for that, because you don't want to make a billionaire sweat. Literally or figuratively, so.
No,
not at all.
And a lot of those billionaires have been sweating for a lot of the season as well.
I don't know whether some of these guys even produce sweat that much anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, it just comes out in the form of paper. It just comes out.
Just green bills.
$100 notes off the side of their face.
What a handkerchiefs.
What a travesty.
I would I would.
We come down
love
to
it.
Miami and it's warm. Who thought?
Yeah, exactly. I would love to see Jerry Jones just whip out a stack of $100 bills, wipe his crotch with it. It would just, it would just be the best.
Free agent signings, don't worry about that.
Yeah, exactly. Agents, you can stick it up my ass. Here's my sweaty stack of bills.
I'm not dealing with agents. Oh, the clap back on that this week was amazing too. Yeah, so
Yeah.
Jerry Jones is just, I don't know, it's a media machine with Jerry Jones. We've known that for a long time. Just some of the quotes that come out of Jerry are just simply amazing. And I honestly wish that I had that glory hole drop just to play right now. But I
jeez.
don't.
Jeez, no, thank you.
It's all smiles and glory holes.
Yeah.
No, well, there is a
I
bit of
mean,
news.
glory hole.
There is a bit of news to talk about today. I've picked the eyes out of some of the news from a lot of the insiders. Tom Pellicero, Harry Miroff, and of course Ian Rappaport. It's been a big week for just nonsense news, and then a whole bunch of stuff dropped out of that owners and GM meeting or getaway, or I don't know what you call it, junket. So there's some bits and pieces from that. So we'll talk about that, and then later on we are going to do, or we've done, a pre-draft power rankings for teams, and we're going to go have a bit of a quick look through a couple of those and chat to the boys about why they feel a certain way about certain teams or where they are. So we'll go through that later on, and see where we end up in about an hour's time. So let's go through some news, boys. Let's start with, how about we start with, we'll keep going with the ridiculous theme. Let's start with Jimmy Haslam on Deshaun Watson's contract. Jimmy Haslam was speaking to the media this week down there in Florida and openly described, and this is one of the first times that he or D Haslam have said anything like this, described it as a big swing and a miss. He said that D and he should be held responsible for the decision. Did say that it was a franchise-wide decision, but ultimately all the responsibility and accountability should fall back on them for approving that and going for such a big swing and ending up with a miss. So it's Brad finally sounds like the Browns might be moving on and past the Deshaun Watson debacle.
That's a good word for it. Debacle. You know what? I gotta give the owner credit for coming out and saying it was a miss. I mean, we all knew it. Everybody knew it. But the fact that he actually verbalized it and said it, I think I give him props. So for that, because how many owners do you see own up to it and say, yeah, we blew it big time? So I will give him props for that. Now the question is, where do they go from here? Because if they don't get a quarterback, are they intentionally? To me, if they don't get a quarterback, they're just saying, okay, we're going to go for Arch Manning. That's what they're playing for. But I don't see that happening. I still think that's a long shot. I think they'll get somebody. Wouldn't be surprised if they try and make a run at Kirk Cousins or something like that. So it's crazy, And I think everybody around the league is probably glad they failed, to be honest with you, because of that fully guaranteed and what it did to contracts. Some of the players probably aren't upset about it, but I guarantee all the ownership and everything is glad that it's been a big bomb.
Oh, the players are definitely upset that it didn't work out, because if he had worked out on a fully guaranteed deal, then all these other players would be wanting fully guaranteed deals. But the bargaining chip for the owners will be, well, look at what happened with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, right.
That's exactly what. Now they can go, well, Jimmy gave this bloke $280 million guaranteed, but that didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
I must say though, with Jimmy Haslam coming out with what he said, definitely the group of people that would be the most upset with what he said is New England, and I'll tell you why. Is because this probably almost certainly guarantees that they're going to take either Shedeur Sanders or Cameron Ward. So they're going to take a punt on one of those guys. Neither one of those guys, I think, should be a top 2 selection. I feel like they're good quarterbacks. They're not quarterbacks that should be going 1 and 2. But then that probably pushes down maybe Abdul Carter at number 3, or probably Travis Hunter going to the Giants, which is who I know that the Patriots would have been circled and thinking, yep, this is the chance that we could have. So they're probably most upset with that. But
I don't know, man.
much for...
I almost think that they'll still go veteran. I think Brad's right, and it's been talked about a lot. I think they'll take a swing at Cousins. They'll wait to make sure that Atlanta aren't going to use him, and which they've already said that they're not. And I think that they'll take a swing for Cousins.
How much is Cousins going to take though? In all honesty, what would be his
I think they'll only take him on a year as well, so it's probably more going to be like $35 to $40 million guaranteed, knowing Cousins. And the way his agent works, the guy will get it. It's ridiculous. It'll be a 2-year. It'll wash out as like a 2-year, $70 million contract or something. It'll be $40 million guaranteed in the first year with an out after the first. Like, it'll be that kind of thing. Yeah, and I think, I actually think that they should go, because Cousins has a lot. Obviously, Cousins and Stefanski together, a lot of history, a lot of good history with Cousins and Stefanski. So they know each other. I think that's the kind of guy that Kevin Stefanski is going to want to run that offense as well, because he'll know what he's going to do, but he'll also like help and be like a bit more of a leader and a guider sort of in that room. And I mean, you got players coming back that they've convinced to come back on deals, and they've clearly told them that something is going to happen. And I don't think that they've sold big contracts to returning players on a rookie quarterback, especially not one out of this quarterback class. And they all know that Deshaun's not going to come back, and what they've selling them on Kenny Pickett starting. I don't think so.
No.
So I think they'll take a swing at another veteran, and I think that the only logical one out there is Kirk Cousins. That's just my feeling anyway.
I think they'll take Abdul Carter personally, but I mean we don't want to shoot our wad here early with the draft show, but I don't think they're high on Sanders. That's just everything.
I don't think anybody's high on Sanders.
Yeah.
I think the only reason Sanders gets within the top 10 is because he's a quarterback, and they get
Yeah,
over
absolutely. So, yeah, it's going to be fascinating however it plays out. That's for sure.
And it's pretty obvious, actually, just on Sanders, that you can tell that his stock is sort of weakened in amongst the league, and the feeling about him is weakened a bit because, like, what was it, mid last season, we had his father coming out, like Prime's coming out and saying it's only going to be certain teams. Like, they were trying to go down the Eli Manning route, like they were going to be able to dictate who takes him, that kind of stuff. So we've gotten further along through the process, and in the off season now, he's said that we've opened up the net to allow more teams in that we can discuss things with. So they're basically openly saying that less teams are saying we might take a punt on him. So they're having to open that net up and like have conversations with more. And I also don't think that they've helped themselves, because Shador Sanders hasn't thrown or done anything at a pro day or combine or anything yet.
Yeah.
This guy should be out there doing every goddamn thing he can possibly do right now. If he thinks they're acting like he's Eli Manning and he's going to be able to dictate where he can go. And he's not. I mean, Eli Manning isn't the best of the Manning brothers, but Jesus Christ, there's a far difference between him and Shador Sanders.
Yeah.
So,
Putting it lightly.
At least if he slips down the order, though, he might end up playing for a better team than. So, situations do matter.
He'll end up on the Raiders. It's a very Raiders move. All right, let's move on. NFL owners passed a resolution to allow Sunday games to be flexed to Thursday night football with 21 days notice. Last year, there was, in the past few years, I think it might be 3 or 4, maybe even 6, only one game has been flexed from Sunday to Thursday, and that happened last year with a special resolution for 28 days. One only game. So that's it. But as of now, any game after a certain point, I think it usually is around week 4, maybe onwards, maybe in week 6, can be flexed from a Sunday to a Thursday with 21 days' notice. That can only give us better football for Thursday night football for those island games.
I think it's going to be good. I like it. I like the move. I mean, if I'm a fan going to the game, obviously it sucks because I got to rearrange everything in the sense of the football's for TV, and it's going to make better TV because you're going to have teams that are theoretically that much better matchup. So
Yep.
I'm all for it.
Yeah, it'll only be greater. And, of course, with football getting more and more eyeballs on TV and getting bigger and bigger, the NFL announced that Christmas is going to get jollier. And for us here in Australia, forget Boxing Day plans. Forget any notion of catching up with that extended family, because it's a day in front of the TV now, because the NFL has a triple header on Christmas from this year.
I was always in front of the TV that day anyway, so...
Yeah, I know. We talked about this before because you were cricket and all that sort of stuff anyway. But we're going to have it'll be a 3 or a 4 o'clock kickoff game. We'll have like a 8 or a 9 o'clock kickoff game, then a midday one. Like this is wake up earlier than everybody else and still be watching that TV at 4 in the afternoon. This is that kind of day, and it's all football. Now they're saying, officially, the NFL's saying, it's only going to be for this year because it happens to line up with Thursday night because Christmas is a Thursday, and they're saying that technically the late game is Thursday night football, so that's why we're doing it, just to keep Thursday night football. Bullshit.
Biggest load of crap.
2020, we will see 3 games on Christmas because it's a Friday. 2027, we will see 3 games on Christmas because it's a Saturday. And then 2028, look out, league, look out, world, because we are going to have 16 games on Christmas Day because it's a Sunday. And it's Sunday.
Yeah, he's going to be in the bags.
NBA, just cut him.
Yeah.
That's it. Just stab right to the heart.
Try and find another day.
They can have Easter.
Yeah. All right.
And it's playoff time too.
It's going to be, by far, I think it'll be the biggest sporting event of the holiday season. And I think it's a great move. It's interesting, the audience numbers last year didn't bring as much as your traditional, what they call terrestrial, over-the-air viewership in America. Yep. But it was the largest streaming numbers that they've ever had. The NFL, if one thing, they're progressive. They know where to go. And so they're pushing the whole streaming thing more and more and more. And that's because that's the future. So, it's not going away. It's only going to get bigger and bigger. I don't have a problem with it.
And streaming's where it's going to be for this season too. This season too, Brad, because those first 2 games are going to be on Netflix, and the third game, the night game, is on Amazon. So it's all streaming on Christmas. Yeah. And of course, you mentioned it last year. Netflix said that there was almost 65 million viewers worldwide for those 2 games that they had on Christmas Day. That's a massive, massive chunk. And having it on the streaming services worldwide, so Netflix and Amazon, great move, I think, because that's the way you get it on there. The only other way you get it is if we get the quality of games that we can get, the best quality of games that we can possibly get. Chiefs, Steelers, Ravens, Texans last year were okay. I think we can do better, and I think that sort of needs to be front and center when they're doing the schedule, is go, these games, these 2 teams, because we are guaranteed, no matter what place they are on a table or in their season, that we're going to get like really, really good games out of these teams.
Yeah. And this is what, I don't know if you said it, but this is the second year of a 3-year deal for Netflix. It wouldn't surprise me if they keep, getting it, because I liked their coverage last year. I don't know what you guys thought, but I really enjoyed it.
I thought it was good, and considering the amount of money that Netflix have tipped into other things, like they gone full on with WWE, for instance, and it's the first time that WWE is going to be at one home by next year, once their current deals for SmackDown are up, and they're going live. That's one of the first times that Netflix has gone full on live for that kind of event in terms of a sports entertainment event. So considering the money that they've tipped in, and it's been openly discussed about that, I don't think the NFL are going to want to piss off Netflix because they probably realise that they can get that kind of money. They get that kind of money out of Bezos for Amazon, and then they can probably get that out of Netflix, and really go down that one. I think that, they're trying with Peacock and that sort of stuff, but I think that they're slowly honing in and narrowing in on the services that everybody is going to have already without having to go outside and get another subscription, and who can give them the most amount of money every single year to have those subscription web sort of streaming services.
Yeah, I'm surprised Apple hasn't come to play in this, but they're probably just too cheap or whatever, and don't
Too busy making phones for teenage girls.
iPhone 48s, and VR headsets and
Yeah.
I mean, Apple are only just catching up to decent camera technology in a phone, and the ability to change your background or your icons. So yeah.
I'm not an Apple fan. I don't like Apple.
I am definitely not. I don't know whether anybody picked up what I was putting down there.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go. One more thing before we get on to... Oh, no, let's go. Rule change. Rule changes. We've had a few rule changes come out of this weekend. So a couple of those that were discussed. Teams are allowed to directly contact a free agent via Zoom or phone themselves now. So not go through the agent as traditionally has been. All contact has been through an agent for a free agent. Teams can now directly contact a free agent via Zoom or phone. Can only do this once with each player, but up to 5 players every year. So this gives teams more leverage to discuss things, I guess, one-on-one with a player before doing the deal with their agent. Going to be great for your man, Jerry Jones, who doesn't like agents, Brad.
Isn't that neat?
It'd be 5 hours Zoom calls, or just not letting them get off the phone until they say yes to agree to a contract.
I just don't. Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, I guess to me, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but I don't understand this huge need to push agents out. And I think the way, if you saw Micah Parsons talk about it, and he, I think what Micah says is great. He said, no, my agent's invaluable, and he's got my best interests at heart. And the difference is if you got a good agent or a greedy agent. But I think most of the agents, if you're one of these greedy slime balls, you don't last anyway. So, and of course the owners don't like them because they squeeze the owners for everything they can get. I don't have a ton of sympathy for the owners. Or agents, it's fine. It's fine by me. I don't think this direct contract is going to make that big of a deal.
I think specifically with Micah Parsons, I don't think Jerry Jones really wants to deal with David Mulligeta as well because he knows he's going to be out for a lot of money. That dude seriously knows how to get some big contracts. He was, of course, the one that basically convinced the Browns that everything to do with Deshaun Watson's legal matters were nothing and that they should pay him a guaranteed contract like we talked about at the top of the show. So that dude got Deshaun Watson a lot of money for being a sex pest. So
that was kind.
What? That was truthful.
The tush push, which has been discussed widely and constantly by a lot of people.
Sorry, there's a spider on my screen.
Brad loves to whip a tush push by the looks of his screen. So make sure you check that out on YouTube on Pastry Press NFL.
Mush. It's like the Simpsons movie when Homer's got the walls in front of him. Mush. Get over the line.
I was going to get an attack.
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
Oh God, the tush push had been talked about a lot everywhere in the media recently. Of course, it's a very divisive thing that's been going around, even though everyone says that only one team can do it. 2 teams have been doing it. It's a very, very, very minute amount of players that were run in the NFL landscape for last season. It got discussed at the owners' meeting, and surprisingly, it was it got up to, or the unofficial word was an unofficial vote, was about 50-50 amongst the group on the vote, which meant that then they've now tabled that discussion until the May owners meeting for further discussion and further consideration. There's a lot of teams here, quite a few. The Packers introduced the bill basically on going on safety, on player safety angle, which is crazy as well because there's no data to back up any kind of safety issue with the play at the moment. And then obviously, as I said, it's so divisive because it's a play that works and it has been working for a few years now for the Eagles specifically. They were able to come up with the idea, get a rugby expert in to teach them more on the play and how to refine it, and then have the correct personnel grouping in their O-line and, of course, their quarterback, who was incredibly strong to be able to run that particular play and have done it with quite a lot of success. And could be argued that they wouldn't have gotten to a couple of Super Bowls without that play. But, of course, it was going to be divisive. But, yeah, strange, Brad, that it got to 50-50.
Yeah, I mean, in one sense, I'm not too surprised that it got to 50-50. But I just think the idea of banning it just because you can't stop it is silly to me. And the whole injury, I feel like they're just making up reasons for it. I'd be interested. Like, I'm definitely not a purist. I don't mind tweaking things and trying out different rules and that type of thing. Even though I'm old, I still think the game has to evolve and change as much as reasonably can. I'd love to see them trial it. Although I don't know if like in certain situations, like okay, you can't do tush push on the goal line, or you can only do it on fourth down or stuff like that. I think would be more interesting than just doing a blanket. You can or can't do the tush push. That's just my take. Anything that would make the game a little bit more interesting, I like.
I don't like that they're trying to get rid of it because it works so well. Like the rate of how it works with the Eagles is obviously quite high since they've brought it in. But you know, who would have thought that one of the players on their team used to play in an NRL academy and they go there and they can perform a scrum play? You know what that means? Yeah. It means the NFL needs to come here and pick more Australians. That's what it means. Who know how to play maybe NRL or rugby union,
Yep.
A lot of credit. They've given a lot of credit to this mysterious rugby coach that came and taught the Eagles. And nowhere it annoys me as an Australian because every time I hear it, I'm going, Jordan Mailata, who literally played rugby in this country, is on that O-line. And you guys are all going, this rugby coach came in and taught them. Yeah. Jordan Mailata, who played the game since he was a wee little lad in Australia, is right there. Yeah. You don't think that dude wouldn't have been the guy going, oh man, this is how we get down with pushing. And again, we talk about it. It failed a lot more than it succeeded in 2024 and that with the Eagles. And that specifically because they were without the guy that it was tailored around that worked so well for in that O-line, and that is, of course, Jason Kelce. Mm-hmm. And with that change, they failed at it. And, of course, they also failed at it because teams got better at doing what?
Defending it.
Yeah.
They figured it out.
But the Bills, everyone goes, the Eagles. The Bills and the Eagles were the only teams to run it more than 5 times last season. The Bills have their own version of it. And it is essentially Josh Allen picking a lane, Josh Allen being the man mountain that he is, much bigger than Jalen Hurts, and probably much stronger as well in a lot of ways. And he, depending on the look he gets, picks the lane he's going to get. Whereas Jalen Hurts is like, it's one lane, you know where he's going. And we saw that in the Commanders game, and I think that's part of this big fast too, is if they wouldn't have been running it in primetime football, and you wouldn't have had a Commanders game where they've tried to come over the top, like, what was it, 3 or 4 times, where you're getting penalties called, and that whole thing, then this wouldn't have gotten so loud. But the Bills have been running it, and the Bills ran it. And of course they did fail at it, or technically failed at it during a playoff game, which should have got them to a championship. And of course we all know if we go back and watch Vision, which we all did back then, that that Josh Allen was definitely over that line on 4th and 1. He definitely crossed on 4th and 1. Like all the replays afterwards were all like, yes, he's definitely crossed that, and that was a fuck up. But back then, what didn't we have, Brad? Proper goal line technology. We didn't know where the ball is, do we?
No, if only the NFL could figure out a way to tell, where first downs are and
Do you know what would be a better way that you'd be able to tell where first down would be better than two guys with some posts and chains or a ref spotting a ball mysteriously wherever they thought?
Yeah, right.
Brad, what would you think would be a better way?
I don't know. Maybe let's use technology to do that.
Brad, do you mean like Sony's Hawkeye technology? That the NFL have announced they will finally be using Sony's Hawkeye technology in balls this season to be able to pinpoint where that ball is on a field and accurately tell where a first down marker is.
Hey, if technology is going to make my balls better, I'm all for it. So, absolutely, let's bring on the ball tickler. It's going to be great. Now, this is a long time coming, and I'm sorry, but, they said there's technical issues or whatever, and that they're having problems doing it in every stadium. To me, that's BS. It's just...
Yeah.
Just invest the money. You can do it, and it's great to see them finally come to the party in terms of the technology and all that.
Yeah, you got owners that are earning millions of dollars from their franchises every season, and then you're coming out and saying we'd have to spend money to put technology in every single stadium, cameras in every stadium, so that we could see this sort of stuff. And you're like, and
right. Boo,
and then,
boo. Yeah, exactly.
So finally we'll be able to. They're going with common sense, something they should have done a few years ago. Things like Sony's Hawkeye technology got better and better, and it's only going to get better and better as the more that technology is used. It's used pretty successfully in things like European football.
Yeah.
All forms of soccer, actually. EPL, they use that a lot, especially on goal line technology to see when a ball has actually crossed the line. Tennis use a lot of it these days as well.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a massive thing. Cricket started using Hawkeye extensively as well for a lot of decisions, LBWs and the like.
It makes sense. It's just you got to evolve with the game. I'd be curious though, I guess just selfishly, how are they going to do that here in Australia when we get our game? Because those cameras, the Hawkeye, just by nature, it's got to be up above. And does the MCG have that bird's eye view?
I think we already do. Because cricket uses a lot of it anyway.
Okay,
yeah. Because cricket we use in Hawkeye anyway. And we use a lot of other systems as well. So I think some of our stadiums are already set up for it. I think Melbourne will be one of them.
Well, yeah, because they did say that even the foreign games are going to have it. That they're going to have that system up and running as well. So
yeah, they'll find a way to travel with it, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So hurrah, that's happening. Brad, kickoff rules are being modified again. Not much to modify about the new kickoff rules because they're all there, but they're being modified with a touchback, bringing a team out to 35-yard line now for a start, which they're hoping will finally result in more balls being put into the field of play and thus returned.
Yeah.
Not sure about just moving the team out to the 35-yard line, Brad.
So if I didn't follow up on this one, or I didn't pay close attention to this one, I'll admit. So if a ball gets kicked in the end zone, they're placing the ball on the 35 instead of the previously 25. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. So you're placing the ball on the 35. Last year was the 30, so they just moved it another 5 further forward. Yeah. So everything else is the same in terms of the new kickoff rules, sort of 2 returners, all that kind of stuff. So
all that, the landing zone and all that.
Yeah, all that sort of stuff is it. It was just interesting decision. A lot of people have said it this week with where it's moved the team forward. When a lot of people have said, if you want to stop kickers kicking out of the end zone for touchbacks, why didn't you just move the kicker back?
That's exactly exactly. That's my point. It's like, why not just make it harder for the kicker and keep pushing the kicker back farther and farther? Then, to me, it just seems like a very shallow incentive. Why not actually make it harder physically for somebody to do something versus doing like this penalty system? So I think the better way to do it would have been moving the kicker, because obviously it's the kickers. The kickers are so good now that they can kick so far. And some of these guys can kick 80 yards when they're, on a practice field. You give them a run up in any type of a wind, absolutely.
So they should have really been bringing the kicker back and keeping everything else the same, just moving the kicker. Would have made a lot more sense. So that's what we're going with. And lastly, in terms of a rule change, overtime rules for regular season games have finally been changed to match the playoff overtime rules that we gained a couple of years ago. Both teams will now have a chance to possess the ball, but the overtime for a regular season game will remain at the 10 minutes that it has always been, rather than the 15 minutes that we get in a playoff game. So both teams now get to possess the ball, get a chance to possess the ball, which is so logical.
Oh, yeah, I love it. To me, it's a great rule. My only thing, I almost wish, to be honest with you, they scrap that and go to the college system. I think the college system is the best tie break.
7 overtimes.
Well, yeah, just in the sense of you're
just
doing
keep
it.
Playing until someone's winning by 2.
You do it from the 25.
It's now a game of ping pong.
It's just so exciting.
It's more, it's a lot more exciting.
Yeah,
I get it, but I guess they also have. They've got to think about time frames. College don't seem to think about time frames of games.
No,
they're all right with the game going for 5 hours.
Yeah.
Season's shorter. Who cares?
Season's not shorter. And not in the NFL though. Season's only getting longer.
Yeah.
Well, you just keep handicapping. Okay, if it happens one time, the second overtime, then we push them a little bit farther back. Third overtime, you tie your one arm behind your back. Fourth overtime, you have to run with your holding your nuts or something like that. It's just well, you just make it harder and harder for them.
Saying that though, for regular season games, I wouldn't mind them saying, when it's a draw, it is a draw, because I feel like if a draw happens in the playoffs, then overtimes will be a lot more rarer. So that means there'll be a lot more emotion and anticipation around it. Once it actually does happen, you get to the end of the game, it's like, oh shit, we actually have to go to overtime now, and you have to bring out all this stuff for it. So I feel like if they actually did get rid of it for a regular season, they say, right, a draw's a draw, leave it at that, it'd actually make it a lot more exciting in the playoffs.
You know what? I saw it somewhere. I can't remember. I should have probably had it written down. This change to overtime rules actually makes the probability of ending up with a draw more than previously.
Yeah.
Because
both teams get the ball.
Yeah, both teams have the ball. It's only 10 minutes. So you get a team like, I don't know, the 49ers and Shanahan are incredibly good at stringing out a drive. So if they string out a drive for, let's say, 9 minutes 50, and then the other team get the ball, even though they've only got it for 10 seconds, they've possessed the ball. So if you're kicking a field goal on 9:50 in an overtime period to go 3 up or 2 up, and then you give the ball back to the opposition with literally 8 to 10 seconds on a clock, they've possessed the ball and you can win. But also, by the same token, is if it's a very defensive game, as we've seen a lot with draws, and neither team can score in a 10-minute period, and they both possess the ball, you're going to end up with draws. So the probability-wise, in terms of a calculator, it goes up.
So does that mean if you get a team who gets the ball first can't drain the clock to absolutely, if they had a chip shot field goal to win it and the clock goes down to 0, they can't do that? Both teams have to have it?
Apparently, yes, they can. Okay. They get a chance to possess the ball. So just by the ball being in play is a chance to possess the ball, apparently, is some of the stuff I was reading today.
So the main rule is basically...
Even then, I mean, they could just give them an untimed down,
Yeah, that's
you could have one untimed down. If that's probably what's going to be in the rule. If you drain the clock, it'd be the other team gets an untimed down. But,
But the biggest change is even if you score a touchdown, the other team still gets the ball. That's essentially what we're
still
correct.
saying.
Which is so logical.
Yeah.
It's taking it away from the coin flip, essentially, being the decider. Because, obviously we've gotten to points where the coin flip is totally the decider. And once your team loses the coin flip, you're like, and you turn the TV off. Because what's the point in watching it any further? Go up against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, in an overtime, and they win the toss. Yeah, see you later. Good night.
Look at what happened when they played the Bucks, and as soon as Baker lost the toss, it was like, well, pack your bags, let's get on the flight.
There's no point. So which has spoiled games, a lot of really good games for us in the past, even regular season games. So finally, that's in. So there we are, and that is the news for this week. So we've lived it and we've done it. That is it. Want to remind everybody while we're here in the middle of the show, if you wanted to keep in touch with anything we're doing across all of the Aussie Gridiron network, even watch us on YouTube now, you can find all the links to our social media at linktree/Aussie Gridiron network. find all of our links for socials. The boys in Aussie NFL Fantasy and Manjot's Pastry Press NFL. Both of those guys, all those guys, I should say, are all still going. So the Fantasy boys will be back shortly as we get closer to the draft. Manjot's doing some bits and pieces as they come up on Pastry Press. Of course, Pastry Press NFL on YouTube is where you can find our show currently if you want to watch us on YouTube. And please do. We would encourage you to. We're trying to get a bit more traction on YouTube all around. So please go and give us a like and follow there and watch the show there. That would be amazing. And also on our link tree, you'll find links to our merchandise and our merch store and a whole bunch of fun shirts and stickers and all kinds of things there. So please go and check that out and make sure you like and follow and just keep up to date with everything Aussie Gridiron Network. So linktree/Aussie Gridiron Network. Righto, we're going to do pre-draft power rankings. Now, all four of us, Brad, Nick, myself, and Isaac, of course, because we didn't want to leave Isaac out of this exercise, put together our power rankings for teams pre-draft. So out of free agency, where do we think teams are sitting? After this whole free agency period, and guys have retired, guys have left, you brought in other guys, all that sort of stuff. Where are we sitting? We're going to have a bit of a look across the league, have a bit of a talk about a few of them. Interesting going down our lists, actually, boys, and seeing just how similar but also how different we are on quite a lot of teams. I want you to you guys want to throw out for me. Give me one team that you're high on that you want to that everybody else isn't. So someone that's up there that you're really high on. Nick, you want to go first?
Can I go first? And I'm totally surprised that I'm the only one, but the current Super Bowl champions at number one. Like, why I've seen someone's got him. Brad has got him at 7. At 7. Ian's got him at 5, and Isaac's got him at 3. I can't understand what they've done that has pulled them back. Like, is it because they've lost Kellen Moore, or is it maybe that they've cut a few guys, or they've lost a few guys up front? Like, I'm curious as to what it is, because they've still got the core pieces of it there. They'll still have a good run game. They'll still be able to pass the ball well. Defensively, on the back end, those guys that were rookies, they'll get a little bit older, so they'll get a little bit better. They were able to keep on. He came back. They re-signed him. I know this is a pre-draft, power rankings, but the Eagles always find a way to draft well and find gems. So I'm curious as to what you guys have seen or think that, Philly, after stopping a three-peat in emphatic fashion, have decided, no, they're not the number one team in the comp before the draft.
For me, I think it's a combination of it. I think they've lost some guys. I think, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and I think Sweat on the defensive line is going to be a huge loss, a huge loss. And I think people are underestimating Kellen Moore and what the OC and what he brought to the table. He kind of gave him some cohesion. It took him a little while to get his legs, but I think what I loved about him is that he kind of adapted the offense to the players. Not that the new OC won't do that, but he showed a rare ability to modify the game plan mid-season. But I also think their schedule is going to be really, really tough. There is also, generally speaking, unless it's an Andy Reid coach team, you always see a regression by Super Bowl teams, generally speaking, especially in today's day and age. And then I just think the other teams are better. I think the other teams, have gotten better, is probably a better way to say that.
So you guys had factored in schedule as part of the thing for this ranking? Because that's something I sort of considered not to factor in, because otherwise you really got to go down and say, who's got an easy schedule, and you sort of influence that. Otherwise, a lot of the NFC West teams for me would be way up, because they've got the AFC South and the NFC South, so that's 6-7 wins there.
I hadn't. It's purely on power for me and strength of the team. This is more. I dropped them down, and it is mainly because of those losses in team personnel. I think that they've lost a lot of, and I know they're mostly older guys, but they've lost guys purely because of contracts. I don't think that they would have lost guys like Darius Slay if it wasn't for a contract.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of others in there too. Even guys within their depth. Nick Gase they lost as well. I can't think of some of the others. But yeah, they've lost a lot of players and a lot of staff and a lot of coaches it's not just Kellen Moore either. They've lost guys underneath them in terms of position coaches and stuff as well. And I think it's just that small bit of regression. I mean, going back to back is hard. The Chiefs proved that going back to back to back is hard, and even but 2 times it was hard. And we've always known that's hard. It's hard to get back up there. But as a strength of a team, I think just losing some of those players, losing some of those more established players, I think that's what they relied on as a team, really for their strength, is their experience. Yes, some of their younger guys really came along. You look at some of their rookies from last season were amazing this season, and they were instrumental in getting them to a Super Bowl, especially through the playoffs. DeJean, for example, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I just think losing that experience, and especially in coaching ranks, I just don't know how Nick Sirianni replaces some of the brain power in those coaching ranks around him, because he is one that is famous for saying he doesn't look after the coaching. The coaches, like his coordinators, run the team in terms of that. And as Brad said, you lose Kellen Moore, that guy is a great brain. And we're talking 2 years in a row that they've had offensive coaching change as well. So it's tough. So, yeah, I don't know. That was it for me. I dropped them down just because of that. And then I look at the others that are around them the same as Brad, and I sort of prop them up a bit more. I think the Commanders have loaded up, and strangely, the Commanders is where most of these guys have gone. Yeah. So the Commanders have picked up these experienced players. They've gone the right route for me and gone, we had a really good year that we didn't expect with a rookie quarterback, and it all went way too good. So how do we build on that? Well, we need to just load up in free agency and get these experienced guys in as much as we can around them. And I guess they're trying to swing for the fences. So, yeah. Ravens a little bit. I don't know. Bills went a bit better. So that's sort of why I went Eagles down.
Yeah, and to answer your question, Nick, no, I didn't dive into their schedule. I just am purely saying usually the Super Bowl winner has a really tough schedule.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Neither of you dived into their schedule because it's something specifically. I mean, we do that in August anyway, as a whole network for AGN. We look at each division or divisions in terms of compass. But in the next few weeks, out of the draft, I really wanted us to go through a show because all the under-overs were released for futures. And I wanted to do a bit of a show on under-overs. And I've got some other stuff to go through on that too. And a lot of that, I think, is you're right there, Nick, a lot of that is dependent on schedule.
Yeah.
That's what your schedule is.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm glad neither of you have really looked at schedule too much because I don't want you to look at schedule. I want that to be a better conversation for when we hit there, So great. Brad, is there a team that you put higher that the others you were surprised the others don't have higher? Is there someone up there that you sort of
For me, to be honest with you, it's probably the Vikings.
Yeah, you're insane. By the way.
I love it. Just because I think for me, I love their off-season moves. Now, you obviously know the team more than I do. I feel like they really tried to address their weaknesses, and I admit I'm taking a bit of a flyer with them. But if everything comes up roses, with JJ, then I think they've got a better team than last year. That's my opinion from the outside looking in. I think they have a better team, and if everything breaks right for them, this I had them as kind of my dark horse break right type of team. I just love what they're doing. I really do. Yeah,
I do agree with you. I think you're insane putting it that high at 5, but I understand why. And again, we're going back into the schedule. I know the schedule because it is the Vikings and I'm a Vikings fan. This year is the year to build on defense, and I love the moves that they've done. A lot of other Vikings fans don't understand some of it. They just keep looking at offense. Like, why aren't we scoring more points? Why aren't we doing that? Well, you look at the teams we're up against this season, and we play a couple of really strong divisions in the NFL outside of our own division, which is insane. Yeah. So it's a very hard year. So what's the best thing to do in that? Let's bolster defense. Sign those guys, get them on their 2 and their 3 year deals. Work wherever you can around that on offense. And I like that they addressed, like you said, weaknesses. We addressed both lines, and that's one of the biggest things to me is we addressed both lines and made changes that outwardly look positive, and that's a stronger team. Even with essentially a rookie quarterback, that's still a stronger team. So it's just better and better. And if Isaac was here right now, he'd say to me that it would be better with Aaron Rodgers. So there you go, Isaac. I'll get that in for you.
Well, it would, and I think if they did get
Brad.
No.
they would.
I think it would
automatically.
be worse with Aaron Rodgers.
Do you really? See, I
that's-
don't.
From an
for 1
NFL
year.
fan, that's not even the Vikings fan. That's just the NFL fan.
Yeah,
The
right,
guy-
right.
The guy is, in my opinion, the guy is a statue. He can't move anymore, and that's not what this offense is built around.
Okay.
I don't even think he would be beneficial for the Steelers to play quarterback right now, and they've got me in their quarterback room. So,
Yeah.
that's saying something, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. No, I don't know. Maybe it's just because he's old. I still because
No, I get the experience, and I get the passer part. Like that, I
Yeah.
don't disagree with that at all. But the NFL right now, and the way the offense in the NFL has gone, is all based around movement. It's all play action. It's all moving out of the pocket. It's been on a roll left, roll right. Just roll with the punches, roll with what's coming to you. And we saw that he couldn't do that last season. It was very little about Achilles, because he was the one that was saying that I'm fully healed, I'm as healthy as I've ever been, because I had miracle treatments, and I went and stuck myself in a dark room for 6 months, and I had mushrooms injected into my ass. Like it's all kinds of things. Like
Yeah.
he said that he was fine, and then he couldn't move in a pocket, couldn't move out of the way, got smashed a couple of times. I think he finally saw Jesus at some point and realised he was probably real, and then realised he can't play football. But now he's just getting the best thing he can possibly get, which would be the Steelers at this point. But anyway, I think that's what the NFL now is about, the movement for quarterback. And you look at what the young guys are doing. You look at what some of these young guys coming out of college are doing. Like, we shit-canned Shador Sanders at the start of the show, but I mean, the guy can move.
Yeah.
He can run, And that's what you need to be able to do in the NFL now, because that's how the offense is going.
And
And
even
it
for
Just
the
hit-
guys that can't run around, like you look at like Jared Goff, you've got to be behind a great offensive line to be able to operate properly. So, you know, who's out there that needs a quarterback that's already got a great offensive line? The only one I could really come up with is maybe the Colts. Like, that's maybe the only one. And even then, I probably still wouldn't sign him.
I mean, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that offensive line was arguably the best in the NFL. 2 years ago,
Oh, it's not as good now, but it's still pretty good.
Yeah.
It's still.
You know why it's not as good now? Because we picked up both of their good offensive linemen. The Vikings signed both of the good Colts offensive linemen.
Yeah.
So it's just how it went. But anyway, I just don't think. I think in terms of just take it off, like the Vikings fan, I look at it from an NFL fan and I look at how things are, and we're past the days of the pocket passer or the guy that just manages from one spot, like Big Ben. There's no way Roethlisberger plays in the league today. Like, I know he's strong as shit, and like if you hit him, you'd probably bounce off him. It's like it'd be like wrestling Andre the Giant, basically. But
The game's evolved.
yeah, it's not the way. That's just not the way the game's played anymore, and I don't think he can keep up with that pace. And that's time. That's progression. It's moving on. Things are in history for a reason, and that's just the way it is. And we've transitioned into the philosophical podcast. So before we've gone there too far, look, I'm going to go a bit further down for mine. That I think all of ours were pretty similar at the top. Like, yes, we had movement. Nick had the Eagles at 1, whereas Brad had them at further down. Would you say 7?
Yeah.
And I had him at 5, and then Isaac had him at 3. Yeah, yes, we're up and down there. The one that stuck out for me is actually down around 10. I put the Bengals up at 10, and I was a bit higher on those guys. Brad, you've got them all the way down in. Where the hell did you
Keep
put the
scrolling
Bengals?
down.
Keep scrolling. How
scrolling
fun.
down.
Just keep scrolling.
17.
17. Nick, you had the Bengals. I know that was lower down.
14.
Isaac had him at 13. I had him a bit higher because I don't like that they haven't addressed defense yet. I really don't. It annoys the shit out of me that you had the world's worst defense we've seen in a decade, and you've done nothing to address that in free agency. You just signed all your offensive stars to huge contracts. But I think even then we saw towards the end of last season when something clicked and something different changed and they found a different gear, they were still winning or getting very close to winning games purely on their offense. And I think they'll add a few pieces, hopefully. That's what they need to do. Add some pieces in the draft and hopefully move themselves up further in the power rankings. So I sort of put them around 10 because for me, they're a really strong team, like collectively. If you take them apart in offense and defense, obviously one is massively above the other, and I think they sort of weight out for me somewhere around the 10.
Yeah, for me it was Joe Burrow played MVP ball. He played hero ball last year. He can't play much better than what he played. And to your point, I don't feel like they've addressed anything on the defense. They fired their good coach, and okay, change is as good as anything, but I they haven't done anything to address that defense, and I don't think they're going to. So I see him regressing, actually, compared to last year, because I don't think Burrow can hold up again under another year of that kind of pressure and just always having to be back out on the field, playing hero ball and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm a little bit the same. That defense is on par to be probably the worst in the league. It was
Not
one
probably.
of the worst last year.
It will
probably
be.
will be.
I don't know if it will,
Especially once, how hard was it for them to be able to do the Joe Burrow deal a few years ago? Now they've just done these two deals. Those owners aren't as rich as anyone as ever. Even from a salary cap perspective, I don't think they're going to be able to keep Trey Hendrickson. So that deal is probably coming as well. So there's a lot of warning signs with that ball club, particularly with the division that they're in. I know Pittsburgh is probably a write-off with Cleveland, but Baltimore just separates with everyone else. So yeah, it's going to be really tough for the Bengals. I know they're going to put on a show. They're going to put a lot of asses on seats because of how good they are offensively.
Oh yeah, their offense will be amazing.
You think about to your point, Brad, with Joe Burrow in the year that he had. Well, think about Jamar Chase as well, winning a Triple Crown. And now he's got that massive deal, and obviously T. Higgins got that massive deal. So sometimes when you get the bag like that, getting out of bed in the Egyptian cotton with the silk pajamas, you don't really have that incentive as much anymore. Not that they won't be great players, but it sort of plays into it a little bit. But yeah, they're just going to be in shootouts. You can't win. You can't win the majority of your games in this league, but just purely shootouts. It's not possible.
So Brad, you don't rate Al Golden?
Sorry, say that again.
You don't rate Al Golden as
No.
a defensive coordinator?
No, well, it's not so much a knock on Al Golden as it is. I think I forget his name. The guy they replaced. He'd been there a long time.
Lou Anarumo.
Lou Anarumo, exactly.
Yeah.
But he's incredibly well regarded around the league. So I just think it's more. Yes, you had to make a change. I'm not sure if that was the right change to make.
Yeah, right, fair enough. Bottom end of the list, boys. Is there someone that you are way further down on than some of the others? I mean, we don't really need to discuss the fact that we've all got the Titans, the Saints, the Panthers, and the Giants somewhere in that last four. Essentially, they're all a mix-up somewhere in there. We've got different ones ranked higher than others, but essentially those last four, I would guess, would all be the same for us in terms of level.
Yeah.
But someone else down that list that you sort of put down, way down, that the others had way up. I'll give you one mine to start with, the Broncos. I think they've just done nothing. And I've not really rated Sean Payton's season last season, and I think I was pretty clear on that when we were talking about that. But I don't know. I just don't, in terms of strength, when we talk about purely on strength for power rankings, I just can't see the Broncos as being up there, and they're sort of a lot further down. I've got them at 26 at the moment.
Yeah. So you have them clearly out of the playoffs, whereas I have them as like a borderline playoff team, kind of like what they were this year. I think they have potential to be a little bit better. Where did you put them, Nick?
I'm the complete opposite to Ian. I think they're competing with Kansas City for that division title.
Okay.
Really, put it this way. So last year, I have the opposite view where I think Sean Payton squeezed every little bit out of that offense that he could. Like, that is what they had. They improved dramatically on the offensive line. The receiving core wasn't great, and they got great production out of them. And nobody thought Bo Nix would hit the ground running. He was quite serviceable.
Yeah.
At times it was quite good. So now you can take another jump with that. They've added Evan Ingram. They've added Evan Ingram and then two of our guys in Greenlaw and Hufanga. If they can get both of those guys right, Hufanga and Greenlaw, into an already pretty decent defense, that's going to be aces for them. And they got them for pretty cheap. Hufanga, a couple of years ago, came off his knee injury. He showed some signs last year, but was just in and out with injury. Greenlaw didn't play much. Hasn't played much since the Super Bowl that we were in. But if they can manage to get all three of those guys healthy, it's a tall task. And it is a gamble for those guys. But if they get them healthy, it's three really good additions to a side that really needed some extra quality, both on the offense and defensively. I'm really bullish, to be honest.
It just
From what
seems
I've
like
seen last year.
I was going to say, it just seems like the Panthers just shifted over to Denver. It's just weird.
Yeah, but give him Robert Sala as well. Give him, because he's come back to us as well. So
yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm quite bullish. Like I had them, like they're in my top 10 at the moment. Like I've got them over at the moment. Like Houston, the Chargers, Tampa Bay, Green Bay, Cincinnati, obviously. And I think that first year going to the playoffs, I know they got smacked around by Buffalo, but at least gives them, just a little bit of traction where they're like, okay, we've got there in our first year, we reset, go again.
That's
huge. And in a year where, who knows, the Chiefs will be in the playoffs again, we'll suspect that. But I don't think they'll be winning 15 games like they did last season. The schedule changes and everything like that. The Raiders, what are you going to get from them? The Chargers, you suspect, will be good. I think they'll get better, but it'll just be I think a much improved year from last year. I think they can definitely push towards north of double-digit wins.
Fair enough. Brad, someone else down there? Anyone else you want to mention before we finish up?
Yeah, that's dropped low.
Low, high. Anyone else you want to mention there? Brad?
Oh, okay, yeah. Just somebody that I have. Well, I was going to say higher than others, but not necessarily. I think Atlanta is gonna do good. So I think you, Ian, had them a little higher too. I think they're one of those fringe playoff teams, personally.
Yeah, I got them at 15.
Yeah, same as me. So I just think that their skill position teams are so good. Now, some of that is predicated on Penix being able to kind of take that step forward. But I just think that everything seems like it's always broken bad for them with injuries the last 3-4 years. And I feel like this has got to turn around here eventually. So I like a little bit of what they've done on the defensive side. So I'm hoping and thinking that things are gonna break right for them, and they'll be that fringe playoff team.
I don't know. I had them a bit lower than probably what I thought I would have had them. I just think they had lost Grady Jarrett. They didn't really replace him. They got Leonard Floyd.
They're going like with a committee approach or something.
Yeah, it's a very weird setup. I don't think they've improved too much on defense. So Penix again, bit of a crapshoot. There was some flashes last year in the games that he did play. Offensively, they're still pretty good, but yeah, it's just because they got that cloud over them now. What are they doing with Kirk Cousins? Is he going to stay? Is he going to go? They're sort of trying to push him off the books a little bit and write that off. So, unless they have a really good defensive draft, I think they sort of pull back a little bit, sort of into that middle section of that division. I assume Carolina a little bit older, a little bit better. The Saints are a bit whatever, and I think Tampa probably hold ground. So I think the Falcons are probably the one that maybe might have a bit of an underachieving year.
I'll mention one more thing.
Yeah, please.
Lions, well, basically all the NFC North. The Lions specifically, though. Brad, you got them at 6. Nick and I got them at 7. Isaac put them at 1.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to.
And I would love to hear that from Isaac. So I'd love to definitely ask him that question.
They've
when he's on with us next week.
Their coaching staff has just been pilfered.
Yeah,
that's just
and their team was
decimated.
One of the worst for defensive penalties last season. Plus, they ended up with injuries on both sides of the ball that will transition over to the start of this season. There's guys in there that they've lost for huge periods of times. He did the same, though, with the Vikings and the Packers, which I'm very interested about. He's got the Packers at 8. He's got the Vikings down at 14 and the Bears at 18. I think as a division, the rest of us, we're all much higher as I've been scrolling through this. We're all sort of around the same. Like I put Lions at 7, Vikings at 8, and Packers at 12, Bears at 13. Is sort of where my feeling where that washes out for me. You boys are pretty similar on those. We're all around the same 6 to 7 range, as in spot range between us. So anyway, I would love to have that discussion with Isaac next week on just his thoughts on why he's so high on the line, why he's so high on the Lions, and then down on the rest of the division.
I like this exercise because, well, for me, normally I'm like a consensus builder. That's just the way kind of my brain works. Is I'll look at what everybody's doing. I'll think, okay, well, what do I think? And then kind of build a consensus. This one, I went completely blind. I did not look at a thing. It was just my pure gut reaction. I didn't change much. So I really enjoyed just the exercise as a whole, and I look forward to doing it again later.
Yeah, good, Brad. Yeah, we will be doing it later. Post-draft, I think we'll we'll get a few weeks after the draft to sort of wash out, things to settle down as teams get into OTAs and all that sort of stuff. And we might do a bit of a post-draft power rankings, and then we'll maybe do it again pre-season, right before the season, just to see how we feel about teams. And maybe that's something we can carry through this season. We'll probably be deleting a few of our other things that we have done in previous seasons that haven't really worked for us in particular. So we'll be changing a few things. But great exercise, boys. Great chat. Thank you, everyone, for joining us once again this week. And we hope that you can join us in future weeks for more talk. If there's anything at all you would like to talk about, you'd like to discuss, hit us up on social media. As I said earlier, Linktree/Aussie Gridiron Network for all the links to our socials. Hit us up somewhere there. Send us a DM. Comment on anything that I might put up on socials, and let us know what sort of things you would like to hear about, and we can discuss those for sure. Going forward, though, the next couple of weeks are a couple of busy ones. Next week we've got Manjot coming back onto the show, which will be great for Brad and I, have the old crew back together, and we are going to go. I think you're away next week, aren't you, Nick?
I am.
Yep. So we'll have Manjot, Brad and I. No Isaac because it's his work week. Nick's going to be away. But we are going to go over a 2021 draft review. So we're going to look back at the 2021 draft class and review where those guys are at in their lives and what kind of players they ended up. So we'll do that. And then the week after is 2025 Gday Gridiron Draft-a-Palooza episode, where we will combine all of our mock drafts and come up with the Gday Gridiron official mock draft that we will carry forward into the draft, so that we can rank and score all of our drafts and see a bit of a gloating exercise, just people that we know what we're talking about. Or maybe to show people that we don't know what we're talking about. It's going to go one way or the other, that's for sure. But please join us for those. They'll be amazing. And then look out for everything else that's coming up in future weeks. So thanks very much for joining us again. And we hope to see you soon. On behalf of myself, Brad and Nick, see you later.
The G'day Gridiron podcast is brought to you by the Aussie Gridiron Network, a network of Australian podcasts bringing the fun and a little bit of the Aussie larrikin to the NFL and fantasy football. Check out our other amazing productions. Australia's #1 fantasy football podcast, the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show. Everything about the local game at Aussie Gridiron today. Manjot's Pastry Press on Instagram and YouTube, and Australia's very own Dynasty podcast, No Huddle Dynasty. Find links to everything at Linktree/Aussie Gridiron Network.